Evening everybody. We'll just give it a couple of minutes for a few more of you to check in and log on. So as soon as I see some people watching, I'll carry on with what I'm going to talk about today. Anybody who's logged on already, welcome to another YamYam Retro Gaming live stream. And this evening I'm going to talk about the Sword M5 home computer. I can see a couple of faces appearing now. How's it going, Gareth? You alright? I can see another couple of faces, but not an announcement yet. Not sure who that is, but hi, how you doing? You alright? I'm looking a bit rough. I don't usually stream this late. I have got work tomorrow, but, you know, there we go. Anyway, yeah, there's a couple of you logging on now, so I'll start up anyway. So, yeah. Evening all, welcome to another YamYam Retro Gaming live stream. It's a bit late. I was intending to do this video tomorrow originally. Well, in fact, I was actually waiting for a bit more equipment to arrive before I did this video, but unfortunately I'm not going to have time to get that stuff here to do this video when I want to, so I'm going to cover it now. But basically, this evening I'm going to be taking a look at the Sword M5 home computer. Yeah, cheers mate. So, yeah, the Sword M5 home computer. Just going to flip this round. This is it. It's a primarily Japanese home computer. It was designed for the Japanese market and came out in 1982. It was released at a price equivalent to about £200 and was released to compete with things like the Spectrum and the upcoming MSX and a few other home computers. So it's quite a nice design for the time. As you can see, you've got your kind of typical kind of early 80s affair. We've got a rubber key layout, quite clicky keys, I suppose they are. It feels quite nice. I actually say they feel better and a bit more responsive than the keys on a 48K Spectrum. It seems actually quite a lot better built. It's a much better profile and everything, I would say, as well. It came in this big ass box, which is looking a little bit tatty, but I'm surprised to even have a box for something this old, to be quite honest. A lot of the Spectrum boxes and everything have perished, so I'm surprised this has come. And the system comes with all you need. This is the Japanese model. The Japanese model came out first. You got one? Oh, nice one, Mike. Nice one. Yeah, nice little machine. Came out in Japan first under the Sword brand. There's also a Takara brand as well, which came out, and when it was released over here, it come under the label of CGL M5. Although there weren't many sold in the UK. Like I say, it was competing with the Spectrum in terms of its price range and its power, and it would had the floor wiped with it. By the time it come out, the MSX in Japan soon arrived and made it pretty much obsolete. It didn't have the support that it needed, and at £200 price tag, it couldn't compete with the Spectrum 48, which is already selling for a lot lower. You know, the 128 was on its way. You know, there's no way, you know, it could compete. It was designed, I think it was designed to be a direct competitor to those, but it always had the kind of the gaming market in mind. You know, that they kind of got that right. However, they didn't have the support that all the other systems had, even though they had some quite big names behind them, like Namco and trying to think one of the other ones now. But yeah, Namco were one of the big names behind it. Oh, Konami, sorry. But there were only ever about 40 games released for the system, which is a damn shame. The system itself, like I say, it's a pretty typical 80s affair. You've got the system itself with the keyboard and the brain and everything up here. There's nothing on the side. On the one side we've got right, left. I think that's a speaker control switch. I could be mistaken there. And flipping over onto the back, you can see we've got a power connector, which is very similar to the ones you would have found on Commodore computers at the time. You've got the multi-in, which was for the, it had a tape deck available for it, which only ended in an ear and mic connection anyway, so in theory you could use any tape deck. I think when it was sold in the UK, it came packaged with a tape deck, because obviously in the UK we were more about cassette tapes and cheaper gaming than we would have been about disc drives and things. Things like the Commodore 64 that had disc drives. When they came out over here, it was all about, you know, it was all about the cassettes, because it was so much cheaper for the UK market. We've got a dedicated proprietary printer port there. We've got two mini DIN sockets here, which look very familiar. Those are for the dedicated controllers. This didn't use the 9-pin that most of the things did at the time. It had a player 1 and a player 2 controller port. And again, it didn't come packaged with controllers. However, it did come packaged with games, which is quite strange. But yeah, the controllers are kind of hard to come by if you don't get the UK models, and I've been looking to try and find some. One thing I was actually waiting on for this video, as it happens, is I know somebody who can make conversion cables for this, which would allow me to use 9-pin connectors, 9-pin connected controllers with this. The controllers for this were like a kind of horrible Intellivision-like affair. Anyway, it's like a disc that kind of turns around, like a 4-way disc, and a 2-button kind of switched button, which is really strange. So I think using conversion cables and being able to use things like an Atari joystick or a Mega Drive joypad or something is going to be a better way to go. So when those come, I'll probably cover those at a later date. And then you've got your RF out, which obviously no one's going to use today. It was crap back then, and it's going to be even crapper now on modern TVs. But thankfully it does have RCA out, so you've got yellow there and left audio coming out to the TV. Like I say, the proprietary connection for this was through tape loading, but it also has a cartridge slot. Now, like I say, this is the Japanese model. The UK models are slightly different. The colouring, I think, was like all of a kind of beige colour. The Japanese ones, or the Japanese sword models, I know, not the Takara ones, have got this kind of yellow finish under here, which is looks a bit out of place, weirdly, but quite cool that you've got this little flip-top lid. And on the back here, quite handily, although it's no use to me in Japanese, you've got some basic instructions, so it tells you about, you know, not inserting a cartridge while the power's on. It's got some instructions on how to load things from tape using BASIC, and, you know, a few things like that. You can probably follow them a little bit, but, you know, it's written in Japanese on this model, so you can't really follow it too well. I have read that apparently the cartridge socket, which has no dust cover, because obviously this is the dust cover, is a little bit finicky, and if you drop this onto the cartridge while the cartridge is in, it will knock it and you can fry the cartridge. I've seen that on videos. I've heard about it from, I've read about it online, I've heard about it from friends. I've not done it as of yet, I'm not planning to, so, but anyway, yeah, apparently you have to watch out for that when you're using a Sword M5. I think it's quite good that a computer of the time would use ROM cartridges, because obviously ROM cartridges were quite an expensive thing to do at the time, which is why obviously the UK market, we didn't even bother with disc drives. We used tape decks for our game loading on our home computers, but this did have a cartridge slot, and because there wasn't a massive library release for it, pretty much every game that got a tape release ended up getting a cartridge release, and these are the cartridges. This was one, I think, that came with the system. It's Bosconian. Great, I think it's a Namco game, isn't it, Bosconian? Great little space shooter. Even comes with the instructions on the back. There's a little diagram there of the standard sword controller. You can see there the disc and the twin button switch there. It's kind of a strange thing, but yeah, it's directly mapped to the keyboard anyway, so you can see that you've got, I think it's WA, S and Z on the keyboard, or is it E, S, D and X? They're mapped to up, down, left and right. and then space and shift over on the right hand side of your fire buttons. So it works out well. I like this game, Mike, I've got to be honest. What was that, Rob? Got a friend who did the first ever UK magazine review of this. PC, who you think she'd love to see one again? Well, she can have a look at this video, mate. She wants to come and see one in person, get her along to one of our events, you know the score. So anyway, so yeah, the tape games I've not seen for sale generally. The cartridges now are very, very hard to come by. In fact, finding anything for this system is very hard to come by. It's hard to find the system itself. It's hard to find the peripherals. I'm really struggling to find the controllers separate, which is why I'm going to have some conversion cables made. Thankfully, it's not that hard to do. But yeah, you know, the things aren't fully proprietary, but it does have its own power supply, which I'm going to show you. Look at the state of that. That is the power brick for it. It is an absolute beast. So it's nice and clearly marked for on and off, but look at the fucking size of it. It reminds me of, I mean, that puts like Commodore power bricks to shame. You know, I used to think Mega Drive power adapters were ridiculous. The Commodore power bricks were massive. You know, the Wii had quite a big brick for a modern one. The Xbox one, I think, was a beast. I mean, well, just look at that. I mean, it's nearly the size of the whole computer. So you can understand why they didn't put it internally. And it does kick off some heat as well, especially because I'm using a step-down transformer for this, with it being a Japanese system. But yeah, what an absolute beast. No dedicated power switch on the actual system. The power switch is on the power brick, so you're going to have to turn it on and off using the power switch on the brick there, which is a little bit annoying because it means you've got to have it kind of floating around on your table in your way. But yeah, the system itself looks quite nice, and we're going to fire it up in a second, take a quick look at it. But first I should discuss, like I say, the cartridges are very hard to come by. So I managed to pick this. Well, so I managed to pick up this. This was actually, there's 3 basic programs for this computer. Basic I, Basic G and Basic F. I'll be honest, I have absolutely no clue what the difference is between them. I don't know if they've got expanded functions or what. But the basic, it came with one of the basic I on a cartridge, and as standard. But at the end of the day, who really cares? This inside here is actually a multi-game flash cart. Now, there's only one person in the world who makes one for this system, and as some people have found, I don't bother collecting software. Everybody knows that. I only collect hardware, but I like to play all the games, which is why I'm a big advocate of EverDrives and things like that and flash solutions. Well, hunting around some of the more obscure systems, especially things like this, you're lucky if a flash solution exists at all. And the problem with a lot of them is, even if a flash solution does exist, they're either very hard to get hold of, or the people who used to sell them just aren't selling them anymore. There's a couple of examples of that. I think there was an early Jaguar flash cart which now no longer exists. There was an early Neo Geo pocket flash cart which you can no longer get. Thankfully, there are new flash solutions in the pipeline for those systems, so I'll discuss those with you in another video later on. But that's a topic for another day. Anyway, the flash cart for the Sword M5 was sold quite readily a couple of years ago. And then middle of last year, all the sources that I could find, if you search around on Google or whatever, all the sources for finding this flash cart had gone. They'd completely gone. There were no links, there were no eBay links, there were no Etsy links, there was no private site to be able to order them. I've had to spend a lot of time recently tracking down the manufacturers of a lot of these flash carts for obscure systems, because they just don't make them anymore. And thankfully, I've managed to kind of talk the guys into digging around and see what scraps they've got, and see if they've either got a spare lying around, can track me one down, or will build me one out of the spare parts that they've got lying around. And thankfully, the guy who did this for me, very nice guy, I think he goes by the idea of Sir Morris online. I managed to track him down. I've been exchanging a few emails with him. He will probably also be making my conversion cables for the controllers. He managed to find one cart that he had lying around. and he nicely sold it to me. So when it comes though, it was never designed to be cased up, so it didn't have any mounting holes. So when it come, I had to modify the inside of the cartridge. I had to use a lot of hot glue, and basically I've mounted it so the cartridge is now properly mounted inside there. The PCB is a lot smaller than the standard M5 cartridge, so I had to modify it to fit properly. But the good news is every single game is on here that is available for the system, and so are all 3 basics. So I never need to get anything else for this system. You know, if someone wants to come along and have a game of this or have a playing basic or whatever, it's all there on the one cartridge, so I'm quite happy about that. I'll probably make up some custom labels or something for it soon, but I've taken the basic labels off because it just didn't seem appropriate to have them on there, and I didn't mind sacrificing that cartridge anyway. The PCB I've still got lying around if I want to reuse it, but you can't get the shells, and I don't know anybody who's doing 3D printing of these, so it was just best to sacrifice one that I had. And obviously I've still got my Bosconian, just a nice little showpiece. Might have been nice to put the games in there, I suppose, but no, I'd rather keep that as is. If anybody's there who's looking for a copy and might want to buy it, you know, at least I can sell that complete. Nobody's really going to be interested in buying the basic cartridge. So anyway, we're going to flip back. We'll pop this in to the system. It goes in there. There's a little key on the front there that shows you which way it's supposed to go in. Pop that in. I'll just move the box down from here. I'll move this all into position so I can film and play at the same time. So bear with me. I'll just go drag this humongous power brick over. And obviously I'm going to be playing with the keyboard, so I need to have all this in front of me while I play. You'll just see off to the side there, I did a little teaser picture the other day. That is my new PC Engine core graphics. I'll be doing a video on that very soon. I intended to do a video on it this week. However, big problem, I did have something I wanted to talk about on here, the EverDrive, and unfortunately it died on me yesterday. So, but thankfully, Cricks and the guys at the EverDrive team, they offer lifetime warranties on these as long as they're official. So that is going back to Czechoslovakia, I think it is, or Ukraine or something. And that's going to be repaired, and hopefully I'll be able to cover that one very soon. But that's for another day anyway. So we're going to bring this up to focus on the screen, and we'll take a look at a couple of the games. And I'll have to kind of film around whilst I try and play. So let's just move all this over, get myself comfy, and we'll take a look at a few of the games. So the system itself, in terms of power, it's got a 3.5 megahertz Z80 CPU, which, as anybody techie out there will tell you, is the same as what the Spectrum was pretty much running. I don't know about the full ins and outs. It was capable of hardware sprites, so it could actually have 16 sprites on screen. I actually did my research before doing this one. However, when it came to game creation, they unfortunately crippled themselves. The system has only got 20k of RAM, which of course kind of leaves you with about 16k usable RAM in order to make games in. So you were never going to be able to have games that looked much better than anything that was available on the Spectrum anyway. Even using a nice ROM cartridge, sadly, it can only load so much into memory at a time, and it limited the games. But we've got some really good arcade conversions on here. Like I say, Namco and Konami supported it. So let's power this on. And you can just see a little power light on the system in the corner there. That was handy to have. The Spectrum didn't have a power light, sadly. And you can just see there the menu screen for the flash cart. There you go, the M5 Multi-2. There was a first revision of this which had a few of the games missing. Like I say, the games are very hard to come by, and they couldn't actually find anybody who owned the games to be able to dump the ROMs to be able to put on here, sadly. So, you know, the talk about the downsides of, you know, EverDrives and things like that, and, you know, piracy. But at the end of the day, it's all about preservation. If it weren't for these people tracking them down, not many people own the carts. Some of these games might have been lost forever. So thankfully, every single piece of software available for this is now available, and it's on this flash cart. So you can see we've got the instructions on there. We got 10 per page. We can press left and right on the arrows to scroll between the screens. So you can see at the top there, we've got the 3 basic programs, which I'll jump into in a minute because I've not actually taken a look at those just yet. You can see we've got Adidas Lucky Shoot. That's a 2-player football game, I think. Aploon, baseball, Bosconian. Actually a pretty good arcade conversion. I quite like it. I think Michael took the piss a little bit just. I don't know whether he knows anybody who had anything to do with that. But it's a nice little game. I'm a big fan of it. Dig Dug, one of my favourite arcade games ever. Absolutely love it. And I'll tell you what, the graphics are acceptable. The sound, the music on this is very, very good. And very close to the arcades. So we'll load up a couple of those in a minute and take a look. Then we've got some of those Dragon Attack, Dream Shopper, Drops, Eskimo, Funny Mouse, Galax, which is... Strangely, it's a fully licensed port of Galaxian, but I don't know why it's just called Galax, but there we go. Gutang Gotong, not sure what that is. Heavy Boxing, Jumping Jack, Life, Mahjong, which you'd expect from a Japanese computer. Mappy, of course, that's another Namco arcade classic. Moon Patrol, that's actually one of the best games on here. Big fan of that game anyway in the arcades. Quite good on here. Puyan, Power Pack, that's actually Super Pac-Man, the arcade Super Pac-Man. And again, it's another really good port. Super Cobra, of course, a very cool scramble-like game. And then the last few titles there, Tank Battalion, Warp Warp, Word Maze, and Zach Bannock. So let's go back to page 1. We'll start with a game that it comes with on, when you get most of the systems. We'll start with Bosconian. It's a good average place to show you what's going on. Just hit the key, up it comes. And I'll turn the volume up slightly so you can just about hear the music. And... what? And you can see acceptable graphics, decent amount of scrolling. Obviously the sprites being put to use. I think it had 16 simultaneous colours this, so a little bit more colourful than your typical Spectrum game. A little bit better looking than most MSX games as well at the time. Never played this game too much myself, but I do play Time Pilot a lot, and I suppose this is a very primitive version of that, so I think you have to make your way to the markers on the map there. And you know what, I hate playing on a keyboard, but this actually isn't bad. It's quite a nice experience playing on a keyboard. Oh, except when I smash into it like that. Turn it down a touch. Try and give it one more go. I've got one more life and then we'll switch over to another game. Like I say, you'd think with having support there from people like Namco and Konami, you'd have, that they might have got a bit of a following going, but the competitive market at the time for home computers was massive, and even though in Japan it was a very different story to the UK home computer market was fierce in the early 80s. We were just kind of getting into that kind of thing, and it took a while for the whole games market to get a grip. Once it did, there were so many computers out, it was hard to know what was going on. But a computer like this, which is, pretty well built, I mean, you'd be lucky to find one of these which is broken. This is working extremely well. All the keys work, no problems with membranes or anything like that. It's better built than most, British home computers. The lower brand ones, the no-name ones than you would have got at the time. Certainly the Sinclair range. So you thought it would have done a little bit better. Maybe got a few more people behind it. Right, now it's a little bit of colour banding up the screen there. That's just to do with the artifacting, I think, NTSC artifacting. It's an older computer. It's only going through the RCA. You know, the signal probably isn't as strong as it used to be. Probably needs a few caps doing. You know, but you know, it's clear enough to play on, and you don't notice it on the black background screens anyway. We'll follow Dig Dug now. I was just saying about what a good game that was. We'll take a look at that and show you what that's like. And if you're a big fan of the arcade game or you're familiar with it, you'll notice that the sound on there is pretty much spot on, and it plays very well. Oh, died straight away. That wasn't very good, was it? I always thought it was pretty cool that he's got his own soundtrack when he walks. I need my own soundtrack when I walk. Goodbye. Oh, don't you run off. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong keys. Oh, up. Oh, he's gone. Oh, well. I could play this game all day. Absolutely love it. I really need to get some controllers though. It'll make playing it a lot easier. Gotcha. I should have backed off a bit there. I love that game. I'm going to have another go. Try and get to grips with this horrible keyboard controls. My gammy left hand. You know, I think being a big arcade fan, I think back in the day, I'd have been very, very happy to got a machine that can do pretty faithful arcade ports. You know, as capable as the Spectrum was, as popular as it was, it could never do arcade accuracy. It didn't have hardware sprites. It is, Mike. It's a really good version. Like I say, the music as well, really, really good. I don't know what the specs are of it, but the music's very passable. Like I say, very close to the arcade music. And even though the colours are only basic, you know, it's appealing to the eye. You know what I mean? It's not just bland colours. It's got its own character. Yeah. Big fan of that. I can't wait to get some controllers to play this in detail. I'll probably play that through several times. So I've got to be slow with my power up and power down here because I'm using, it's quite a big old brick and I'm using a step down transformer. So let's take a look at something else. Let's go over to the next page. We got Galax, and you've got to take a look at a typical space shooter when you're looking at any kind of old computer, haven't you? So let's call up Galax. Oh, look at that title screen. Doesn't it just inspire you? But there's the official Namco license, so you know, it's the real deal. This should be a little bit easy to play with just one hand, it's just left and right, so. And again, passable music. Well animated, very well animated in fact. No jerkiness or clunkiness. Okay, there's no Starfield in the background, but the ship moves fast, the game plays fast, and the enemy patterns are there. Ooh, you need the same kind of reflexes you do for the arcade version. I can tell you that. Ooh, nearly copped it in the first second there. Oh, I did. That wasn't good. I know kind of space shooters are something that people get bored of, you know, bored of seeing, but at the time, this is the kind of thing people, you know, they're incredibly popular in the arcades. This is what people killed to see, you know, back in the day. And this is a very faithful port, you know, done by Namco themselves. I'm not surprised. But, you know, it's not a super capable system, so they've pulled it off pretty well. It's fast. Ooh, and I'm dead, unfortunately. Not good enough to take the high score. I'll have one more go of that. Like I say, I mean, there are not many games for this system, but the ones that are there, they are gems, you know. These are games we probably played a lot, you know, pumping 10p's into back in the day. And, you know, for a system that's quite obscure, you tend to find it either doesn't have any games or has nothing you're going to recognise. And even though it's the basic games, these are the kind of games, you know, you wanted to play back in the day and you still kind of want to play now, as long as they're done well. And this is done very well. Yeah, at least I cleared a wave. Oh, yeah, that'll do. I'm dying, so it's time to go. Right, let's take a look at... We'll have a look what's on the menu. Moon Patrol. I did rave about this. This is a bit more advanced, I suppose. Still looks not much better on face value than, say, I don't know, the Commodore 64 port or something like that. It is, Simon, very good. Very good. Basic, you know, title screens and that. You can tell they were all done with limited memory. They thought they'd rather put the, you know, the effort into the game rather than the title screen. But what I quite like about this, one of the biggest problems you used to have with things like Spectrum games, you would never have a control standard. So it was different keys for every game, different keys to start, different keys to do certain things. You had loads of different protocols for the joysticks, which made it problematic if you were switching between the early 16K games and the 48K games. You know, it was a bit of a problem. With this, you've got a controller standard, you've got a keyboard standard for the controls, the title screens all look the same. It's what I've been trying to talk about when I've been talking about the Spectrum Next, about kind of setting a standard. It needs to be presented in a way that's user-friendly for casual people, just turning it on and having a game. And because I do events, I find that very important. You know, people need to be able to step up, turn it on, and instantly be able to get into it. You know, and this system does that very well. You know, for an obscure system, it's well built. It's comfortable to sit at and, you know, and type at. It feels pretty sturdy, apart from that issue with the flap at the back I've talked about, which I'm not even going to try and tempt fate with. But you know, it's a well done system, and you know, the ports have been done in the right way. Every game is press button 1 to start. The key mapping on the controls is identical. It makes it a very user friendly pick up and play experience, and I find that important when it comes to playing games. So you've got the two buttons at play here. You've got fire and you've got jump on shift and space. The space isn't a bar on this, it's a button off to the side. Limited enemy sprites and kind of strange scroll in the background, but it doesn't detract anything from it. It's nice and colourful, you know. Your moon buggy's well animated. The pits are there. Ooh. The animation's there, the background music's there. It's a very fun game to play. When I was playing it the other day, I got through quite a few stages. I hadn't played it before. It's probably because I'm probably distracted because I'm talking actually, but there's the bricks on the ground, so everything's there from the arcade. The little pins on the floor that block your way, they're there. The bombs, those weird kind of DNA-looking alien ships at the top there. The UFOs dropping the mines, which I'm only just about avoiding. You know, there's a decent challenge here as well. You know, I'm having to constantly keep moving to avoid it all and not get taken out by the bricks either. So I keep avoiding those triangular mines. The only thing you haven't got on this, which you would have on the arcade, is a progress meter. Of course, on the arcade, there's like a little mini map at the top which tells you how far you are from the next checkpoint. You don't have that at the top of the screen on this, but you know, there's only probably 16K available. You know, they did what they could with the available memory, and I think it's quite passable. And this is actually a very fun game. It's quite challenging because you're having to watch all the enemies at the top. You've got to constantly watch the ground. Your ship is controllable mid-air, which is good. And it is getting quite hectic now the further we get into the level. Oh, lost a ship. I'll tell you what, Gary, I mean, for the time, for 1981, I think the trademark marking on this, the copyright marking on this was on here. But yeah, it was a 1982 system, you know, and the arcade version had literally only just come out at that point. It certainly does so, and you're right there. I mean, the 2600 was kind of the benchmark for early arcade ports back in the day. And obviously Atari being king of the arcades in the early 80s, that made sense. But, you know, even back then, Namco, you know, Konami, they were some of the Japanese pioneers, you know, and they were responsible for continuing the arcade experience well into the 90s. And you know, they still exist today for a reason, Namco. You know, they moved with the times, they moved into fighting games and whatever else. And there might be kind of a shadow of the former selves, but they're still going strong. But, you know, yeah, definitely having the support on here and having them do the actual conversions has definitely paid off. Quite a capable little system. And, you know, for like basic parallax scrolling, it's working, you know. Oh, forgot about the mines. Oh, hit that one. Sorry, I'm getting quite addicted. I absolutely love that game. I love that game on the arcades. I used to play that a lot down our local working men's club. We had an upright version of it, and on the cocktail cabinet we had a Ring King. But yeah, another great game there for the system. We'll take a look at a couple more, and then I'll, just for you people who are big fans of it, I'll jump onto the basic and we'll see if you can do anything. I'm useless at coding. I'm even useless at basic. It's been too many years since I did anything, so I don't know if I'll be able to do anything. Let's jump on. You've got to take a look at a Pac-Man. So let's look at Power Pack, which, like I say, is Super Pac-Man, basically. And this is just done using up, down, left, right, so I should be able to manage this with my right hand. Not that many people played Super Pac-Man. A lot of people played Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, maybe even Junior Pac-Man, but Super Pac-Man was a much less popular game back in the day. Of course, the trick thing on this being when you eat the power pills, the green power pills, you don't just eat the ghost, you can actually eat walls. You grow huge and you can bite your way through the gates. But I'm struggling to find my keys in time. It's quite a fast game, so easy to get yourself trapped as well. I think even John Stooley had struggled to play this, you know. It's all about pattern memorisation, and it's all completely different from playing the original Pac-Man. But still, pretty good game. A bit hyperactive for my liking, but still a pretty good game. We'll take a look at a couple more. So like I say, we've already covered, 4 or 5 really good arcade conversions there, and there's still quite a few on this list I'm sure people out there will know a bit more of. I'm not that familiar with all of them, but I'm sure a few of you will be. A couple of games there that the names might not look familiar when you actually go in and play them. The games themselves are clones of very popular arcade games. I think there's like a Pengo clone on there. Like I say, you've got Super Cobra. I mean, people are familiar with Super Cobra, but Super Cobra obviously is like Scramble, you know, so. And again, another good arcade conversion. So, you know, scrolls adequately. It's fast, you know, got some fast enemies. Controls very well. I suck at it. Baby Pac-Man on the 7800, not played it. Oh, you can't actually, I thought you could hold down the key, but you can't, so. This is something that would definitely be better with the joypad. You need fast reactions, and I just can't do it on a keyboard. So maybe I'll give this another try when my joypads arrive, because I don't think I'm going to get past any further than the first screen or so. Yeah, I'm going to keep dying. So anyway, another cool game. Well done. You can see it's been well programmed. Let's take a look at one more. Let's see what we got. Tank Battalion. No. Mappy. We'll have a look at Mappy because that's another popular one. Been a long time since I played Mappy. Again, even more basic title screen on this one. It's literally just text. Again, I might struggle to play this on a keyboard, but and I died already. You know, tidy little graphics, nice and colourful. I can live with that. You know, nice colourful game. A little bit slower response than the arcade, but like I say, nice and colourful, well presented. Oh, I know I was going to die there. Should have shut the door, shouldn't I? Go that way this time. Try and grab that TV. Or use that actually to kill them. Goodbye. Yeah. Got him. Let's see if we can complete one level at least. Got them all, yeah. There we go. Managed to do a stage. Quite impressed with myself. How's it going, Chris? You alright, mate? Yeah, exactly, Gary. Not easy to do. Sounds good, Simon. Be good to see those when they come. So, finally then, before I kind of sign off on this, let's take a quick look at the basic. See if we can't do something on here. So, I'll go with Basic I, which is the one that the system comes with. And I'm guessing it'll just come with a command prompt. Yeah, there we go. So we've got basic. So I'm going to do the token thing. Let's go with 20 print. This is what you do to test every system when you have it. There we go. Print Asperger. We do have uppercase and lowercase control, which is good. Do we have a semicolon? Yes, we do. Oh, I don't know if it'll be go to as one word. It's been a long time since I did any basic, but let's see. There we go, Asperger. That's about the only bit of basic I ever remember when it comes to just thinking of something off the top of my head. So we've got a scrolling Asperger for you. Break, where's break on this? Is there a break key? Reset maybe? Space? No. Function? No, how do I break? I don't know how to break my function. Ah, there we go. That did it. Shift and reset, that did it. So anyway, so that's the basic. So yeah, nice basic program, and obviously you've got Japanese language support. You can see all those marked up on the keys there. You've got symbol support. I think you can do rudimentary graphics in basic with some of the shortcuts on there. So yeah, so that is the Sword M5. A very, very strange system. But you know what? I like it. You know, I picked this up. I actually picked this up at Revival 2018 this year. There's a guy called Alan from Alan's Japan Retro Gaming. He'd actually ordered in a Sword M5 at the request of somebody who wanted to buy it. So he went and obtained one specially for somebody to buy. and he got it all priced up and everything, and that person didn't want it. And apparently this was 5 years ago, and he's been taking it to every convention since, because not everyone's that familiar with obscure console collecting. People are more obsessed with picking up, Japanese games or something for a more popular system. He'd had it sitting there for a while, and you know what? The guy did me a solid. He did me a really good deal. I think he had it marked up originally for £250. Now, one of these, £200 originally, you're looking for a British example, you're probably looking at about £150 to £200 now, partially complete in average condition. About the same probably for a Japanese one, although you get a bit less kit with a Japanese one. He had it marked up for £250 originally. I got it for £100 with the Bosconian cartridge and the basic eye cartridge. And you know what? It's in fantastic condition. It's not faded, chipped. It's in great condition. The box is there, all the cables and everything was with it. The power brick seems kind of solid. It seems much better built and in much better condition than some I have seen. But like I say, generally speaking, it's a pretty well built system anyway, and I'm very happy with it, and I'll certainly be taking to this events in future. But yeah, you'll be looking, if you want to get one of these yourself, you're looking to be paying between £150 to £250 for one of these. But I'm saying, if you like your home computers, you're into your Spectrums, your Amstrads, your Commodore 64s, and you started branching out into things like, the BBC Micros, the Acorn line, going to things like Dragon 32s, the more obscure stuff, then give this a try. It's a nice, capable little system. And I think you could probably write something pretty rudimentary yourself if you've got any kind of clue about programming. And it's a cool little system. It's a nice talking point. And again, it's something that's going to look great in my collection up on the shelf when I finally get a chance to get all this set up properly. So yeah, that's the Sword M5. I'll finish up by saying I'm going to be doing a couple more videos. I have got a video lined up I want to do, which will be called Retro Room 101, in which I'll be talking about things that tropes and games and certain things about gaming that I dislike, and see if it should be committed to the bells of hell. I've kind of prepared an episode for that, but we've had a little bit of a family situation this week. I might not get a chance to do that one before the weekend. I'm hoping to do that one soon. I'm looking to take suggestions on it. But besides that, I've got a video coming up on the Turbo Graphics. I've got some more obscure consoles lying around my house at the moment I'd like to cover anyway, so I'll probably do a video on those soon. I've been contacted by some more developers on the Spectrum Next, and they want to send me some games for me to cover in future streams anyway. I've also got some more hardware tech I want to cover, talking about modern developments in retro gaming. So I'll be covering things like some indie games that are being produced, some physical games that are being produced, and going over those in detail and letting you know my thoughts on those. But I just wanted to mention that I'm going to be off the radar for the next couple of weeks mainly. But to let you know that we're doing the next revival show, the Revival Mini Winter Zapped 2018 on the 24th and 25th of November, I think it is. And tickets are on sale now. I haven't done much promoting for that recently because I've been way too busy getting a lot of other things prepared. But I'd really love to see you all there. You're going to see some of these obscure systems out there. But basically, it's going to be our pre-Christmas piss-up. We're going to be getting together, having a few games. They're going to be launching the Zap annual there. Chris Wilkins will be there. Maybe doing a little bit, getting some of the guys in to do a bit of a talk. There's going to be arcades there. There's going to be pinball there. For a little meet, you don't often see that. So there's going to be a bunch of arcade machines, a couple of pinballs, bunch of consoles, multiplayer stuff, competitions. There's going to be food and drink available, cheap beer, by the way. And you're also going to see quite a few traders there. So if you want to grab yourself something cool before Christmas, you're going to have people there like Sore Thumb. You're going to have Get Gaming. You're going to have people doing things like Kirsty with her models and carvings and things like that. There's going to be some great pickups to get you for yourself there. So jump onto the Revival Retro Events Facebook page or the site. Jump on there, grab yourself your tickets now. They're only £5 a pop, so there's no excuse not to come along. Enjoy a drink with us all. It's not often we get to be social at these events. Nice and simple, full weekend affair. It's right next to a couple of hotels at Junction 10 of the M6 here in Walsall. So get yourselves along, come and have a drink with us, have a good time. No problem, Simon. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys all soon on my next video. See you later.